Hi, I'm Brittney King.
And I'm Lisset King, and welcome to Honest Feedback. We're a podcast here for you. We're here to assist anyone who could use a little feedback, perspective, a different viewpoint on your issues going on at home. Sometimes you just need a little assistance from the outside, and we're here for that. People have typically in our lives come to both of us for advice, not because we're married, but because we have different strengths. Brittney is incredible at holding a compassionate space and seeing you where you are and making you not wrong, which is absolutely loving.
Thank you, baby. You're so good. I feel like you do that too, but also you have that extra oomph of being a therapist and being like, hey, is that your problem? Let's get around it. Let's see outside of it. Look, there's an exit door. You can walk through it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Like a theater usher, I help you exit your problems.
Safely.
In
an orderly fashion.
Without trampling anyone in the audience. Yeah, that's accurate.
That's very
I would
helpful.
say that's accurate. Today, our callers have the common theme of family of origin and how to navigate that space when we have different views or there's traumas in the past that we're trying to move forward with.
Yeah.
So that's the theme. And I know that I can relate. You know, I certainly can relate, like just coming from a very cohesive family. We're very tight. And also I have sometimes felt like a bit of a black sheep. I do things differently. I am the only one who's queer or tatted or any of those fun things. And I'm, to the best of my knowledge, I dove deep into personal development, mainly from the space of needing to heal from my own traumas. So we don't always see eye to eye, but we can always find a place of love to talk to in the middle.
That's so good. That's so good. I feel like I too I formerly called myself a black sheep, and then a friend gifted me with like, maybe you could be a unicorn. And I was like, yes, I am the black unicorn of my family. I feel like I lead a very mystical life, and my family would be like, you're too sensitive. And it's like, the truth, yes, I am sensitive. I sense energies. I sense bullshit. You know, I feel things and there needed to be some care with that. And so I feel like I've had the broad spectrum with my family of origin, from family members where I'm like, this is unhealthy for me and I actually need to not communicate with you like in the 3D, and from other to all the way to like, we don't see eye to eye, but we can hang out and have a glass of wine and have a laugh together, and we can find the parts where we connect. So I'm excited to get into it and hear what these callers have to say. Shall I put on the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Honest Feedback. This is Glenn. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm calling because I was wondering if you could give me advice on how to navigate a relationship with an older relative that I'd really like to continue to have a close relationship with, but we have really different politics. They're generally respectful of my views, and they respond pretty well when I ask them to adjust behaviors around me, but I find that I can't have a civil conversation with them about things because, honestly, their viewpoints make me really angry. I'm just not able to keep my cool. I think they might even agree with me on some of the issues if we could actually talk about it, but I have such a hard time being gentle about things like this when their views are actively harmful to so many people, including communities I'm a part of and communities other people they care about are a part of. So I'm really struggling with figuring out how to have these conversations instead of just having arguments. I hope you have some advice for me. Thanks.
Wow. Shout out to Glenn. I love that. I want to have conversations instead of arguments. You are here doing the work.
Yeah. I just want to say that's a lot of self-awareness. I heard you say that you're the one who can't have a civil conversation. I was like, oh, yay for knowing where you stand and where you are with things. Politics are a really incredibly challenging place to navigate. Like there's that old adage, don't talk about politics or religion in a bar. That's how brawls start, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say, like, this is such a nuanced topic.
I found that in this last election cycle, what I experienced was several of my friends who were white coming and being like shocked, being like, I have racist family members and I had no idea. And I feel for you. And like a lot came up through that election cycle where it's like, you didn't know this about your family member, because also it's like we're becoming of an age. I'm assuming this person is in my age demographic. But making wide generalizations. But, you know, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, la, 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 I'm living my life. Like, you handed me an ice cream, that's great, whatever. Then you're growing up and you're like, I have these thoughts about the world and my points of view and this and that. And then your aunt's like, this, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what'd she say? Like, does she know? Like, what? And, you know, and it's all very confronting and confusing. And it's like hard not to be like upset, because you're like, but I've loved you my whole life. We've been friends. I don't like, why do you hate me, or people in my community, or like, why do you think thoughts that way? Like, this doesn't match up with how I thought I was being raised. This is confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have found, especially during that election cycle, it was quite a divisive space
Yes.
to navigate, and it's definitely easy to think, oh my gosh, that person is thinking this way, and because they are thinking on that side of the fence, they believe everything that goes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Brittney and I had an experience on our honeymoon, we were in Colorado Springs, and there was someone with a hat of a certain color.
It's red, y'all. Red.
Yeah. It was about what we assumed when that person walked up to us was my personal baggage around what I believe that meant.
Mine was flaring too. I was like, Baxa.
Yeah, yes. Back up, sir. And the thing was, he walked up to us in the space of like, can I take a photo of you? You know, I can tell that you're wanting to take a selfie. May I take a photo of you? And we're like, yes, we are a married couple on our honeymoon.
We're gay, sir.
From the assumption that what that had meant all these other things with it. And the gentleman was like, oh, congratulations. He was very kind, loving. He spoke so highly of his wife and all these things, and was so warm and open and welcoming. And it really melted what we believed around those things. And he had said something about like, man, it's a shame what's going on right now, because we're all just humans. Well, we all want what's best for our family, and we all want what's best for, you know, where we live. And I was like, yes. So, you know, I say that to say, I know I can relate to how you feel. The assumptions that come with where we take our news from, the algorithms, what we are taught about anyone who's on the other side of our viewpoint, it's really challenging to filter out what the truth is. And what it really comes down to is, where are the similarities? When he said, we really just want to be happy, we really want what's best for ourselves, our families, and each other, I was like, yes, I can agree with that, because the similarities are at a much deeper, richer level. I believe you can find the reason you love these people, because you do love them. There's something wonderful in there that you have not cut them. I'm assuming you haven't cut them out of your life to this point, which is why
they said they were close to them.
Okay, great. So using your similarities as an entry point of connection is really a wonderful place to start. And then when things come up that are differences, you can speak to them from a grounded place, reminding yourself that this is someone you love. This is someone with just a different belief system, you know, and people are not their behaviors. People are not their belief systems. People are so much more. They're nuanced and loving and kind, and these people care about you. And I can take a guess that they do care about people way more than we can even assume based on their political views.
I don't know. I have doubts. I have doubts. There is a part of me that's like, Glenn, take my hand. You stand behind me, baby. Because no. Like, I feel that there's two things.
Go ahead.
One, is Glenn in a situation that's harmful? Like, are things being said and things being spewed out where it's like, this is draining not only like your energy, it's like your emotional capacity. You or communities that like are a part of you are under attack based on the things that this person's saying and the actions that they're taking. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a scale, and by what they said, they're like, their politics are very different, and they're actively harmful to communities that I'm a part of and that I care about. So like, there's the part of me that wants to protect you, Glenn, and it's just like, maybe you need to have like way further separation from this person where it's like, we're not going to talk about politics or religions or any of those things like at all. And like, cause it's not mentally or emotionally safe for me to do so because of the level of threat to my personhood that's involved with this, or the personhoods who I'm in allyship with. So like, there's a part of me that's like, yes, because I feel you on like, I want to believe someone cares about all people. And then certain people, they do care about all people, but they decided that they think these people need to be under these people. And like, that's the way they're operating. And like, they care from the place of like division or separation or like, whatever the beliefs are that you think that you're different than another person in a way that makes people act in ways that I feel like are violations. But so there's that perspective. And then I feel like there's the other side, and I'm not exactly sure where you are with it, Glenn, where it's like, okay, if you're not an immediate harm or threat, where it's like your emotional system isn't getting hijacked, like you're able to stand up for yourself to an extent in these situations, then it's like, how can you set an appropriate boundary where it's like, we're not going to talk about that? Like, I had a situation, we were out in Beverly Hills for like my mom's birthday at like a fancy lunch, and it was like, la, 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 you know, shush, shush, shush. And my grandpa like made like a disparaging comment about a gay gentleman, and this daddy was serving. Okay, he had on a fierce outfit, and I was like, go ahead, sir, get it. You know what I mean? And my grandpa like made a disparaging comment, and both me and my sister were visibly upset. I think I might have thrown my fork down because I was like very upset. And I said to him, I was like, please do not speak about that person like that in front of me. I don't accept it. Look at us here, a Black family at a fancy Beverly Hills restaurant. People used to say things like that about us being here. And you're going to say that about this gentleman being here? If you're going to continue to speak like that, I will not stay at this lunch. I will leave. And he didn't say another thing for the whole meal. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, I got to exert my boundaries, but I felt safe enough, calm enough, and able to get myself out of the situation where I was like, yes, it's my mom's birthday. Yes, we're at a restaurant, but like, I'm not going to sit here. Like, there are consequences for like the things that you're saying, and I'm not going to sit here and be a part of it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it doesn't bother me, but I was able to say it in a way where it wasn't like, I have to scream, like, it's table flipping time. Like, we're getting it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and there's a wide scale, like, between those. So, like, my first concern is for your immediate, like, emotional and mental safety. And then my second thing is, like, how can you set an appropriate boundary where it's like, you can't say that in front of me. I wish for you not to say it in front of anyone. I wish for you not to think it, but since I'm not going to be able to change your thinking this morning, and that's not my objective, I don't know if that's necessarily a helpful objective. Like, no. You can't talk like that in front of me. And people will either get with it or there will be a bit more space in between you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, very different opinion, and that's wonderful. That's why people call us, because
Yes.
yes, I admire and appreciate the tool you gave her to be able to talk to the person and put up a boundary that matters. Like, that's for sure. You shouldn't have to have a conversation you don't want to have. You shouldn't have to have, when we're so different in our views, it's okay to just disagree. And I would encourage you to not drain your emotional energy wanting to change the other's opinion, but rather put the boundary where it matters to you and find an entry point that works to have a conversation. And then just know where your edges are and play within that space. Because if they're close, which you mentioned that you were, then there's certainly love there to be maintained. And people are not their behaviors. People are not their belief systems. Or your belief systems are something we adopt from the other side. Just like you said, there was a time that you wouldn't have even been able to sit in that restaurant, and times are changing. And
Times they are.
James, they are changing.
I just thought of something. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
I thought of a helpful tool, perhaps. You can say, when they say, if, it sounds like a win, when they say something harmful, it hurts me when you say things like that. I cannot be around it. And perhaps if they are able to resonate with the fact that you are in pain by hearing their harmful thoughts or actions, that might be a space of like where someone might be open or more receptive to having a conversation about it. And again, I love the focus of not from the place of trying to change someone's mind, but literally sharing your experience. It hurts me when you say that you hate gay people because I'm gay, or several of my friends are gay, and these are people who I love and are close to me. And it really hurts my soul that there are people like me who you just feel like you hate because I thought, we were family and that there was a love here.
If your family's saying, I hate gay people, I think that's a great argumentative point. However, I don't often think people just go around talking like that. It's usually people don't know they're racist. They're not like, I hate blacks, but I ain't racist.
Right.
I love queer folk. They put my outfits together great. I just don't want them near my dog.
But okay, as someone who was black and went to a predominantly white school, there was a lot of coded racism where people are like, well, you're not like those others. And not you, but like the other ones. And it's like, what you mean? Like, I'm black. They're black. You do mean all of us. But now that you know me, you've decided that I'm different. And I'm the exception, not the rule. But like, the truth is, everybody's different. And maybe if you got to know more people, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the lump. I don't feel like, it's both. I haven't had the experience of someone being like, I hate gay people, but I have had the experience of people being like, this stereotype about these people, well, not you. And it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I don't think we have enough data points to know how the other people are talking. So we may want to pull that one back. So this actually brings up a really good point. I can appreciate that knowing that the people in your family have different political views comes with a lot of assumptions about how they feel about certain people. And it might be completely safe to assume those things. However, I would offer that you find the similarities, and when those things are actually spoken, take the opportunity to say your boundary. However, find the place where you're matching, where you're finding the compassion in them and their viewpoints, because that's one of the things I discovered through going cross country on our honeymoon is that there were more similarities than differences
Yes.
that were implied on my social media feed because of the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
Or CNN versus Fox News. Like, if you watch those, it feels like we are literally in a civil war.
Yeah.
Where when we went across the country and had loving, wonderful conversations, we were met with people's hearts.
100%.
And they were not the belief systems that we were meant to assume that someone on a certain side would mean.
Yes,
You
they
know.
were people.
They were people. And they were people.
Complex.
Nuanced, complex characters all
Yes.
around the world.
Yes.
And so I hope what we said helped today. Did you have anything else to say?
No. I'm sending love to you, Glenn. I'm sending love to you,
Glenn, that's definitely a challenging situation. We just really want to, my heart definitely feels you. And I hope that you find a place that feels good with your family where you can coexist in your very different realities and find the middle where the love lives.
Yeah. Okay, let's listen to this second voicemail.
Oh, awesome. I haven't heard this one.
Oh, okay. This is a wonderful opportunity for everybody. I would like to give a trigger warning. This upcoming voicemail deals with sexual abuse and children. So if you are not in the space to listen to something that talks about that kind of content, I appreciate you. I send love to you, and thank you for taking care of yourself. And check out one of our other episodes. And yeah, we are going to dive into this one.
All right.
Okay.
Hey there, my name's Alex, pronouns he, him, and I have a situation where my family is getting ready to take a trip across the country to visit my dad for a few days, and this was a little while ago, but it came out that over 10 years ago he was he was arrested and convicted of child molestation. And it was a really kind of complex story. It involved him working at a daycare with his wife, and it was really rough for the family to take that on. It was when my kids were still really little, so I got two kids. They're both teenagers at this point. But I'm going to be taking this trip across the country to visit him. And I'm really nervous. I mean, I feel like I've done a lot of work around, digging into that. What does it mean for me? I went through a whole process with him of just like not ever wanting to talk to him again, and then a process of forgiveness. But having this opportunity to connect with him, with my kids in the same space, it's bringing up some things for me. There's a part of me where it's like, it should be no problem. Like, maybe he's moved on, or I think he has moved on a lot of ways. I genuinely do, but at the same time, there's like that nagging doubt for me. So anyway, I'll just curious to know what that situation's going to be like, how I might be able to handle that time together. Like, should we stay, for example, at his house for any of that, or might it be a better move to get an Airbnb or find some other place to stay while we visit, so that we're not there at night? I guess that's one of my concerns, but it's been something that has been on my mind for a while, obviously, but new kind of layers peel back over time, and this is what I'm dealing with now, and would love to chat and hear your perspective and get your honest feedback. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
I just need a moment to ground, myself, feel my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
I am here in this present moment. I am safe.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, thanks for the trigger warning. Whoa, I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable.
I
And,
understand. I
yeah,
have a smile that's hard to move.
Yeah. This one, this one hits home in a big way. I was molested very young, and I know that there were family members in my family that were molested by certain people that were doing that. And I wonder to myself how different things would have been if, first of all, we could have talked about it. I didn't feel safe at that moment in time to discuss it for reasons that were embedded in what had happened. And had there been an adult that knew and would have advocated for me or advocated for any of the people that had happened to, I wonder how different things would have been. So it definitely fires up a lot of some triggers inside of me that I am processing and breathing through in this moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I...
Would you like a hug?
Oh, sure, I'll take a hug. Thanks, baby.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very real. Like, I'm 40 and it's like 34 years ago. And it stays in your neurology. So yeah, Alex, this is a rough one. Do you wanna also chime in?
Yeah, like fuck, man,
Yeah.
Alex, like my heart goes out to you. This is a definite, very sensitive situation. I too was molested when I was young by a close family member, and it's something I'm still actively working on healing today. I've forgiven my abuser many times, and yet there's still things that come up because in this moment I experienced feeling triggered. I'm experiencing feelings of feeling not safe, and I'm here with my wife in a studio, so there's a lot to go on here. So I guess to me the first thing that comes up is it's about your kids. Your question was, should we stay at his house? And for me, based on the information that you've given, I would say no. I would say no. And I would say, for me, step one would be like, do your kids know about this? Have you talked to them about this? For me, I feel this needs to be a conversation that's out in the open, where your kids know the landscape that they're walking into, because kids pick up on energies and unspoken things. Like, can you talk to your kids and say, this is what's going on? And also give them an option. Do you want to go and visit your grandfather with this information that you have? And like you were saying, like, should we stay at his house at night? I would say I wouldn't be comfortable with my children alone with him at all. That's where I'm coming from. And I'm coming from the side of a survivor of sexual abuse, and I feel that your kids need to have all the information to be able to make informed consent. And something that really struck out for me was you said, maybe he's moved on. I think he has. And what does that mean, he's moved on? And I think he has. Does that mean that you and your dad are having open dialogues about this? Is that the point in your relationship that you are? Or you haven't heard him mention anything about it, or nobody's talked about it in a long time, so we think this isn't a thing anymore? And like, I really struggled with the phrasing of maybe he's moved on, I think he has. Because to me, that just opens up a Pandora's box of questions. I feel like, is your family in a space and in a space of love and trust where it's like, hey, we're going to have an open conversation, both me, my partner, and our children, before we go to this situation? If my children decide to go with this situation, are we going to have a conversation also with their grandfather? Like, is everyone going to have a conversation about it, about what happened, about what repair work is being done, and about the consequences of one's actions, such as we won't be staying with you, grandfather. You are not allowed to be alone with my children, grandfather. Any children, grandfather. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I just think people do change. So I understand that you're like, maybe he's moved on. Like, I just want to say that's, I don't know what has given you that impression. However, I just offer that perhaps that's a conversation to know what specifically moved on means. And past behavior tends to be a dictator of future behavior. And so to assume that he's not going to do the same thing, I do believe he can change, but knowing what you know, some things you just can't walk right back into, you know, and I'm kind of school, get an Airbnb, you know, because he did do that and he was arrested and convicted. And for that reason, like, the consequences of that are a lifelong consequence. And the consequence now is like, hey, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm not going to bring my kids over to spend time alone with you. They know what's going on. I'm letting them make their own decisions around it. You know, I love you and I honor you, and I'm always going to love you for being half my DNA. And also, this behavior is not something that I can forgive, and we're not going to forget. And we're not going to forget collectively. It's your job as someone who comes through the lineage. It's all of our jobs to heal, to do the best in our generation so that this doesn't get passed on. You know, I don't know the situation again. However, had an adult known and informed us or advocated for us to not be put in those situations, our lives might be very different. And there's a bit of residual, you know, anger and questions of like, did anyone know? And were they just ignoring it? So I would hate for your children to have any sort of upset with you of like, wait, you knew this was going on and you brought me in that house?
And
like,
you didn't tell me?
Yeah.
I mean, I too jumping on the anchor wagon because I didn't tell anyone as a child that I was being molested. You know why? Because there were other kinds of physical and emotional abuse that were going on in my home that I did try to advocate as a toddler for myself, being like, hey, this is wrong. And you know what? Nothing was done about it. So I wasn't going to say, hey, you know, I've tried to stand up for myself and I got very silenced. I wasn't going to bring in, oh, also someone's touching me. Like, it didn't feel like my voice wasn't respected or heard or valued in those situations, and steps weren't taken to allow me to be safe, to feel safe. So I think it would just be radical for you to have this kind of conversation with your kids so that they know you're a safe space, that they can come to you and talk to you about what's really going on. How much growth and how much closeness and how much more love can be created within your family by having an authentic and honest conversation about the shadow and the dark and like what's been going on, because that was something that was never happened in my family. And I know I was not the only one who was molested. So I feel like that would have been revolutionary and healing to know that I could have actually gone to adults and something would have been done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And Alex, I really just want to just remind you that the healing work's never done. Like I heard you say, you went from a place of like, I'm never going to talk to him again, to forgiveness, to now this trip coming on. Like every opportunity that comes around where your stuff fires up is an opportunity for you to face it, to see what's supposed to come through me, what's supposed to come forth. How can I bring my highest self? How can I bring my truest self and have an even more honest conversation? And, you know, there's no way your father can expect you to just, you know, again, I'm assuming the best I can with all the information I have, that we can just get over what happened. Like it's a lifelong healing process when it's that kind of wound. As you can tell, here we are, over 30 years after it happened, close to 30 years after it happened, and we are still processing it. So be gentle with yourself during this process. Like, to say I have worked on it is one thing, and also be patient that this might be a lifelong journey of working on it.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, and something that's coming through too is like the quote by Maya Angelou: when people show you who they are, believe them. And I feel like balancing that with people can change and grow, but with having the information you have, what is the best choice that I can make from this place? The best choice that I believe you can make from this place is talking to your kids.
Yeah.
Is talking to your kids.
Yeah. And passing that truthfulness forward generation after generation. Not able to repair backwards, but we can make a difference forward.
Secrets breed in the dark, so let's bring it all into the light.
Boom.
Into the light. Into the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. These are... Whew.
Have you ever shaken? Shake it,
Shake
shake
it
it.
up,
I
shake
learned
it
that from the dogs. They have a tense feeling and they're like, shake it, shake it. It's a helpful tip.
Yeah, hot tip. Best advice for both of our callers. Shake it off.
You got to move the energy.
You do.
That was intense. For those who are watching, some time has lapsed, and for those who are listening, we are wearing different clothes, and the set is different because it is a new day. We recorded an outro for this episode, and it just didn't feel complete to me. I thought there was an opportunity to be more honest, and honestly, I was very triggered by this episode. It was really difficult to shoot as a survivor of being sexually assaulted, of being violated by a family member. And I wanted to talk about aftercare and also like where my advice came from. My advice came from the place of someone who survived something really awful and what I would have wanted. I would have wanted more communication. I would want to see that my parent was doing all that they could to protect me by also giving me information that like I needed to know. I would want to know that the adults in my life who I had built a trusting relationship were people that I could actually trust to tell me the truth and where I could trust to protect me as best they could. And for me, I feel like it would be just radical to see my parent in real time trying to figure out how to forgive, how to repair, how to navigate, how to communicate, how to talk about really, really difficult, hard shit. Like, I feel really blessed that my wife does this. I feel really blessed that my community, I have several members of my community who do openly express and say, like, this is what's really I'm struggling with and I'm trying to see my way out of, and I'm not sure how yet. And it gives me hope and it gives me faith that like I can do it for myself as well. And, I can't say what's right for anyone in their family. All I can say is like what my experience is. And my truth is I would not wish to be judged by the actions or behaviors I took on my worst day, on my lowest moment, in my darkest hour. Like, I would want compassion and I would want forgiveness. And I'm also a survivor who would want protection and all that could be done to be done. So that's the space I'm speaking from. And yeah, babe, what is your experience filming this episode?
This was an incredibly challenging episode. I felt triggered. I felt memories come back that I wasn't quite ready or equipped to deal with. I learned. I should listen to the audio before we shoot the episode. And I noticed how much I wanted to avoid afterwards, how much I didn't want to like sit in my feelings. And it was just such a, even that was reminiscent of a lifetime of coping mechanisms. Even as a child, I avoided and started a really early journey with substances to not have to feel my feelings. So I felt that urge, that desire of just like, oh, just want to drink to take the edge off, and despite the fact all the work I've done even on that, there it was again, so I found that to be very enlightening, and you and I got to talk about it some more, and just like bringing that coping mechanism to the light of like, how would I really want to handle this in the future? And you brought up a really good point about aftercare. Would you like to share that?
Yeah, I feel that aftercare is really important when we're going through difficult situations. And I noticed for me that I needed to ground a lot. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts coming into my head, and uncomfortable feelings that I didn't want to be with. And I needed to ground. One way of taking care of myself was like talking with my partner. I asked for hugs. I noticed for myself, as far as like moving into intimate spaces, I needed my partner to communicate everything she was going to do before she did it. So like every touch had to be like told to me and then consented upon. And even then, things didn't move very far, because my body was in a state of trauma response, and I kept having the urge to disassociate and leave my body. And so I knew I needed to take time to be with myself. One of the things that really supports me is moving my body. So I went to a dance class, and I got to move through some feelings and like move the energy out of my body. How do you feel that you best supported yourself, and what aftercare was really helpful for you?
I really think you brought the awareness of the need for aftercare. I was working on autopilot. So in the future, I think I will participate in grounding, and it really did help talking to you and having that moment of where do we go from here?
Yeah.
How do we reset in light of our feelings, in light of our traumas, in light of all the dust kicking up, the water getting muddy. So that worked, and I plan to continue to do things like that in the future. However, I think that the biggest thing was just awareness of like, there it is again. There's that old habit. There's that old avoidance. There's that, I don't like this. I don't want to feel it anymore, So
If I can interrupt you briefly,
yeah.
I just want to speak into it of like, your avoidance was a coping mechanism that helped keep you safe for many, many, many years, so like having the awareness of it, and also having like the gratitude for it, of like, it did keep you safe for a lot of years, and like knowing that you don't want to operate that way from the future. But like, I just want to remind everyone, like, your coping strategies may not be helpful, but at one time they really, really were. So like,
Yes.
I love you. I see you. Like,
Yeah.
nothing you did was wrong,
Yeah. And on that note, forgiveness, self-forgiveness.
Yes.
Self-forgiveness really brought to mind, with all the damage that was done from those actions, like lights came on for all the ways that I had been wrong, or all the ways I might have hurt people in my life. So there was that like shadow popping up. So definitely forgiveness.
It's a process, I've worked on forgiving my abusers. over and over again. And some days I feel really clear and like I feel space in my body and I feel that, and then things come up and things get re-triggered and I have to go back to myself and say, where is there more space? Where is there more grace? This episode was also really challenging because I'm talking about being sexually abused on camera to strangers. And this was something I told no one in my life for a really, really, really long time. And only in the last year did I tell my family of origin, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well from my vantage point, how I felt. So it's really challenging to speak about such sensitive natured topics and to be honest about like where I came from and what happened to me and the journey before. And I guess I'm just asking for compassion as we navigate these difficult spaces.
I wanted to piggyback. It was incredibly challenging afterwards to feel the, whew, I just said that on camera, granted, I don't know how many people will actually see this. It's like, these are the things I've only sat in a therapeutic space talking about. So it felt incredibly vulnerable and exposed. Should my family watch this, should my extended family, my friends, here I am, and here we are, just living our truth and putting it out there. And my only hope is that for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to share something challenging, just know you're not alone.
Yeah.
And we're all right.
I feel that we turned out great in spite of our past, and every step I took in the past led me to where I am today. And I'm grateful for where I am today, and I'm grateful for who I am today. With that, I just want to say, make sure you're taking care of yourself. If you need help, reach out to a friend or a trusted loved one or a trained professional. If you need to be with yourself, with your thoughts, be in nature, do what you can to make sure you're taking care of yourself with these sensitive topics. I would suggest that everyone do their own self-care of like what feels good to you, whether that's a bubble bath or whether that's setting boundaries with people. What is the kind of self-care that you need that would best support you?
We certainly don't have the answers. We don't have all the answers. We are just offering the kind of support that we wish we had.
Yeah. Just know that you are not alone. You are loved. And as always, be honest with each other.
And with yourself.
Yes, with yourself. For those listening, our number is 971-895-4111. Call us.
Yeah.